We start the discussion with chapter 1. The primary concept is every human being lives life on individual nature, whereas all species live life on collective nature. The fundamental difference. All species live life on collective nature. Human beings alone live life on individual nature. Even in a group of 3,000, it is 3,000 individuals. Even in a group of 100 millions, there are 100 million individuals. So the first primary understanding is all species live life on collective nature. Human beings alone have to live life on individual nature. Collective nature implies no choice. Individual nature implies choice. Collective nature implies no choice. When the lion chases the herd of zebras, all zebras will run. No zebra can think, as I am running, why can't I trip the another zebra's leg, so that I can escape, that zebra can get. No zebra can, nor can any zebra come and say, eat me and leave my herd behind. Both is not possible. This is known as collective nature. Implies no freedom. Implies no choice. No choice means no freedom. No choice implies no freedom. A human being alone has this individual nature. Individual nature implies choices and freedom. Now comes the second point. Every choice that a human being makes, every choice that the individual makes, is not that individual unit choice. Every choice that the individual makes, it's not that unit individual choice, it's a package. It's not an individual choice. It's always a package. A person decided to get married. Even though from the superficially, if you look at it, it looks like just one choice of getting married. It's not just the choice of getting married. 100 things comes along in that, with that package. Having made that choice, you have to experience having made that choice, you have to experience that package. When the package gets exposed, two possibilities. One possibility is to run away from it. Another possibility is to take up responsibility and go through that and exhaust that. Arjuna in first chapter is trying to make he chose battlefield, he chose to fight, but what he didn't understand was the package he didn't understand. So when he suddenly got exposed to that package, he said, no, this is not what I asked for, therefore I will run away. Running away implies being a coward. Running away implies being a coward. Ignorance makes you coward. The mind which is ignorant will remain a coward, and it will always want to escape. Escape from what? It will make a choice, and when the package gets exposed, they say, no, this is not what I asked for. The third point, knowledge says, before you make a choice, to whatever extent you can penetrate and understand that package, and then decide, is this what you want, and then take it. After making a choice, you can't. After making a choice, you can't run away. Or everybody tries to run away, but that running away doesn't change anything. That running away doesn't solve any problem. Fourth, this is why this Bhagavad Gita is. What is the relevance of the Bhagavad Gita? The fourth is, since you have the individual nature, your freedom, your moksha, your liberation is in pursuing that individual nature. Arjuna's individual nature was to be a warrior, Kshatriya. If Krishna were to be talking to a businessman, he will say, he won't say take up arms and fight. He will say, do business. If he is talking to a Brahmana type, he will not say fight. What he will say? Function according to your. That's why there are two Gitas. One is Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. Another is Uddhava Gita, spoken by Krishna to Uddhava. You will be too confused if you. That's why don't read. Is it the same Krishna is talking this and the same Krishna talking that? Because Uddhava tells Krishna, I heard that you spoke something very nice in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Please tell me that. Krishna says, that is for Arjuna. What is your question? What I spoke is what? Arjuna, what is your question? No, simply say, I have no time for it. So the fourth point is, the individual nature you have to pursue. In pursuing that individual nature lies your moksha, liberation. What is Arjuna's individual nature? To be fighting. All along he was fighting for selfish purposes. Now Krishna is saying, fight for a selfless purpose. All along he was fighting and killing with anger and vengeance. Now he is saying, fight and kill with bhakti. How is it possible? That's what he is saying. Do the same killing. You can't escape from. Because if you listen to the whole of chapter 1, you will be so convinced that Arjuna is right and Krishna is wrong. Because Arjuna speaks our language. He speaks our language of ethics and morals. He speaks our language of escapism. He speaks our language of ethics and morals. And Krishna comes and speaks a completely opposite. This is the relevance of the study of Bhagavad Gita. Point number 1. Collective nature versus individual nature. The day you understand that you have an individual nature and you have to pursue that nature, and in that nature lies your liberation, salvation. It's frightening to understand individual nature, because the moment you realize that you are an individual, immediately you become all alone, and the entire responsibility falls on you. When the entire responsibility falls on me, I say no. Responsibility not thrust by any external agencies. The choices that you have made, the choices that every one of us makes, not realizing that it is an package, we assume it to be a individual choice. Actually, it's not an individual choice. Even though at the superficial layer it looks like an individual choice, in the deepest core, if you analyze, it's always a package. What does the package means? Package implies some part of it you like, some part of it you will not like. That's the package. Some part of it you like, some part of it you will not like. Now carefully follow. This doesn't happen with two different objects. This doesn't happen with two different beings. It happens in the very same being, in the very same object. Some you like, some you dislike. You can never get a package where you like everything in it. Neither you can get a package where you completely dislike. You can say, see, even if you come and sit in a classroom like this, it's a package. Yeah, it's a package. What is the package? You might like the points, but you might not like the way that I speak. ரொம்ப ஸ்லோவா பேசுறீங்க சார் நீங்க. கொஞ்சம் ஸ்பீடா பேசினா it will go. It will be slightly. It's a package. You understand? Every choice is like that. If you carefully analyze, every choice that you make is a package. You buy a car, some part in that car you will like, some part in that car you will not like. You live with the person, some aspect in that person you will like, some aspect in that person you will not like. But nevertheless, having made that choice, you can't escape. Even if you try to escape, it will come back to haunt you. You can't leave it. It will come back. You can't escape. Wherever you try to escape, it comes back to haunt you, to trouble you. Meaning what? Wherever you try to escape, you carry the same. Changing the clothes doesn't change your mind. I change my clothes from shorts and t-shirt to dhoti and kurta, and I don't turn. My mind doesn't. Escapism is changing the clothes. Escapism is changing from one environment to another environment. How you see it is the individual nature. For example, what is this individual nature? I'll give an example. See, there is a rose garden. There is a beautiful rose garden. One man looks at the rose garden and says, wonderful business opportunity. We can just export it. He see roses, in that roses he see dollars. Not right or wrong. Rose garden. Another man goes to the rose garden and says, what a beautiful roses. If only I can make a garland and offer it to Lord Balaji. Yeah. At least Artha car will not get drowned in the water. Yeah, first car gets drowned, at least the next car won't. He is also seeing the same. Another boy goes, sees the rose garden. He says, I should make a bouquet and give it to my girlfriend because they had a fight last night. He sees the rose garden. He wants to. Now, rose garden is the same. How you see it is the individual nature. You follow? How you see it is the individual nature. Which seeing is right, which seeing is wrong, there is no such thing. There is no one seeing is right, another seeing is wrong. A poet comes and looks at the rose garden and says, he is inspired to write a poetry. Another man comes and says, lover of plants. He says, don't cut the roses. Leave the roses. Yeah. But rose is blissfully unaware of. Rose is completely, blissfully unaware of all of this. The same rose garland, you can put it on a dead body, you can use it on. Rose is blissfully. How your nature, how you make use of it. Your nature and how you make use of it. How you can make use of your nature. That's what the entire theme of Gita is. You follow what I am saying? First is the individual nature. Second is the choices that you make. After having made the choice, you cannot escape. After having made the choice, when the package gets exposed, two possibilities. What are the two possibilities? I am just repeating. One possibility is escape. At least next choice I will be careful. But from this I will escape. From this marriage I will escape. In my next marriage I will be very, very careful. 100 times you can get married, it will be the same. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Remember that example. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. They both acted in that movie and they won the award also. The Taming of the Shrew. In the academy we see that movie. Taming of the Shrew, acted by this. Next day morning he was saying, why I showed that movie is for two purposes. One is the direct philosophical meaning of it. The other purpose is, you know the story. No, I am not going into that story. How he tames the shrew, and they both become the most loving. So they both become the most loving couple, and they won the award acting. Real life also they got. In real life they got married, and then they separated. They remarried, and they remarried. How many know this? How many knows this? Oh, இவ்வளவு பேர் தெரியுமா? Very good. When they remarried, what is the number of that marriage? When they remarried, 10th time. 10th time they remarried. Not that they lived happily after that. Again they separated. And both, I think both are dead, both are dead now. Again, you can't go to Richard Burton and say, you only acted in that movie and you won the award for that movie. And you only said, what? Even if it was true, the way you live with her, you can make her into a, having made the choice. You don't have to escape. You can't tell Richard Burton that. Neither can you go and tell Elizabeth Taylor what? They only acted, they won the award, but what happens? In real life, when the package gets exposed, we escape. Why we escape? Why we escape? Dislike. Why we escape? One reason, dislike. I can't hear. Difficult to handle. You don't want to take responsibility. When you make a choice, with a bundle of expectations, which is completely contrary to that package. When you make a choice with a bundle of expectations. Expectation brings you hopes. And hopes are devastating. The Upanishad says, of vain hopes. The Upanishad says, of vain is the hopes. Because where does hopes come from? Hope comes from the expectations. Expectation is what? You make a choice with your own expectations are your assumptions. Expectations are your assumptions. Whereas the package is what? It is. That's where he keeps on saying, see things as they are, not what you. Complete the sentence. See things as they are, not what you. Very correct. Yeah, very true. Not what you. No, it's a package. Having made that choice, Arjuna wanted to escape. Just as that is the nature of ignorance. Ignorance is always mind, which is fundamentally rooted in ignorance. Ignorance makes you a coward. Knowledge brings you opposite of cowardice is courage. Knowledge gives you the courage. Courage to what? Courage to say, I made the choice. I will take the responsibility. And full stop vechradingo. That's what he's saying. Don't keep a full stop there. Put a comma. I will take responsibility, and how I will execute that responsibility. Comma, sincerely. Athoda don't keep a full stop. Put another comma there. I will execute that responsibility sincerely, comma, cheerfully, full stop. This is Bhagavad Gita. Understand? Having made that, it's very difficult. Now Bhagavad Gita looks very. Idunna Bhagavad Gita vandirukave mattom sir. Ippudu in the Sunday morning, why we will come and sit in the. These are Bhagavad Gita na some nice Harikatha story we can listen and go away. Having made that choice, you have to take responsibility. Having taken up responsibility, don't do it half-heartedly. Do it. Come on, I said, I am not saying, sir. Krishna is saying, do it sincerely. Comma, do it cheerfully. Now, if you look at a master, if you look at an enlightened man, this is his life. Whatever he takes up, all thinking happens before taking up, Not after taking up. After taking up, having taken up, do it sincerely, Karma Yoga. Doing it sincerely is Karma Yoga. Kama, cheerfully is gratitude. Bhakti. Jnanam is the thinking that goes before you. All the three, Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, Yoga combined, in your practicing it in your individual nature, gives you moksha, liberation. 700 verses to explain this. 700 verses he takes to explain this. If not, what happens is, having made the choice, when you hear that it is your responsibility, you will start whipping yourself. Whipping yourself in the sense of, why did I make the choice? I have to suffer and it's my karma, sir. You start whipping yourself. Now when you are whipping yourself, you can't do it. You can't do it sincerely, because one part in you is resisting doing that. One part of you wants to do that. Another part in you is resisting doing it. This is where the conflict comes. One part in me says exercise, it's very important. Another part in me says lace also. One part in me says exercise, another part in me says lace. Whether I am exercising or lacing around, the end result is agitation. Whether I am lacing or exercising, the end result is agitation. How does agitation comes? When I am exercising, that part in me which wants to lace is getting frustrated. When I am lacing around, that part in me which wants to exercise is getting frustrated. Therefore, whatever I do, whatever I avoid doing, I end up in, a human being ends up in agitation. Human being ends up in agitation. The knowledge of the Gita is to help one to get rid of this. Don't say agitation, conflict, because it is the conflict that leads to agitation. Conflict is because of lack of clarity, not knowing what I am asking for. How can I ask for being fit and being lazy at the same time? If a man is asking, he is not knowing. He doesn't know what he is. Beautiful is that paragraph in that book, The Fall of Human Intellect. Beautiful is that paragraph in that book, Fall of Human Intellect. He says, nobody knows what they want. One whole lifetime you can sit and reflect on that concept alone. He says, nobody knows what they want, and everybody is so sure about what they want. Nobody knows what they want. Is because of this package. It's a conflict. They have this conflict in them. More conflicts you have, more agitations. Less conflicts, less agitations. No conflicts, no agitation. But then I want to live a life of no agitations, keeping maximum conflicts inside me. This is the height of ignorance. This is the height of You understand? When you are covered, when you are escaping, this is what happens. A person who escapes, when he knows that he is trapped, he can't escape, instantly another possibility comes. He starts looking for quick fix, instant solutions. Either first attempt is to run away. If you know that you are trapped and you can't escape, na? Is there any parihara that I can do and I can quickly get rid of this? It instantly wants the mind will immediately want a instant solution. What is that instant solution? Whatever be that. But nevertheless, what happens? It disappears as fast as it disappears as fast as it is. Knowledge gives you that courage. What is that courage? Knowledge gives you that courage. I was ignorant in the past and I made that choice. Having made that choice, now the knowledge has told me that I have made the choice. First thing, I will take responsibility for that knowledge. 90% you become free straight away. You feel that you are a victim because you feel that the choices are forced on you. You follow? You follow how the mind works? Everybody feels that they are a victim because they feel that I didn't want to make this choice. My parents forced me into this, or my partner forced me into this, my friends forced me into this. Even then, Vedanta says, the law of life says, the responsibility is yours. When somebody forced you, you are so weak that the other person can force you. Even then the responsibility lies on you because you were weak. Or you made that choice because you wanted to please that person. Having made that choice to please that person, if you have made that choice, you need to take that package you have to accept. What is that package? That's where he gives examples all the time. If you take the child to America, it's a package. You can put the child in Carnatic music class in the morning, evening sloka chanting class where in Manhattan, and expect that you are bringing the child like how the child can be brought up in Mylapore. And you thought what? You got both. What? You got the best of America and you got the best of Mylapore also. First day you tell your child that I will slap you, 10th minute police comes, no? Only there it happens. 10th minute police comes saying what? There is a child in distress in this house. Unbelievable it is. It's a package. It's a package. Clear? He always says. Another example he gives. Two standard examples. Intelligent child will be a rebel. Is a package. Obedient child will be dull. It's a package. You can't have both in the intelligent, obedient child. Yes, that doesn't. But where comes the problem? When you make that choice, you don't penetrate enough into. That penetrating capacity is what is called as intellect. That penetrating capacity which tells you the choices, the package before you make that choice. Now having made choices, that's the state of Arjuna. That's where Gita is very relevant today, more than the Upanishads. Because having made the choices, like every one of us, Arjuna is asking, what do I do? What do I do now? Having made the choices, what do I do? Now, in the case of the Upanishadic student, the young boy has not yet made any choices. He can go to the master straight and ask for. He can go to the master straight and he can ask for the highest. What is the highest? 2 types of knowledge. Yeah, in the Mundaka Upanishad, the student asked, what is the question? What is that knowing by which I will know everything? Very greedy question. He is saying, what is that one knowing by which I will know everything? That person has not made any choices. He is fresh. In the Kathopanishad, Nachiketas went to Yama and asked. What did he ask? Some say there is life after death. Some say there is no life after death. You are the Lord of death. You only knows whether there is life or not. You understand? Now Arjuna has already made choices. What is the choice? To enter into the battlefield is the choice. 13 long years of preparation for the battle. It's not that Arjuna was sitting and meditating in the Himalayan caves. Krishna uprooted him and told him, fight. In fact, Krishna said, let us go and talk peace first before we get into fight. Arjuna said, no, we will fight. Yeah. That's where the story is very relevant. That's where the story of the Mahabharata is very relevant. Having made all the choices, when Krishna said, first let us talk peace and then we will go for battle. Arjuna said, no. And he came into the battlefield, fully prepared to fight. All along brainwashing himself to say that they are all my enemies. When we go into that verses, you will understand. Arjuna tells Krishna, place the chariot, chapter 1, he says, place the chariot in between both the armies. I want to see my enemies, he says. I want to see my enemies. Krishna places the chariot in the most advantageous position where he can see the entire army. Unnecessarily Krishna confused him here. Beautiful is that word. He says, look at the Kurus assembled here, he says. Arjuna says, I want to see the enemy. Krishna says, look at the Kurus assembled here. Kurus means your family. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you are saying enemy. I can't see any enemy here. I am only seeing your family in the one. Next verse you should see Arjuna's. Immediately Arjuna starts saying father-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, son-in-law. You should see those verses that comes after that. He didn't understand. He didn't understand. Krishna, without understanding, if we were to start the battle, halfway through the battle, Arjuna would have run away. Krishna, having this penetrating capacity, knew what's going to. Therefore, what he said, he placed the chariot, and look at the verses. When we go to that verses, 16, 17, 18, chapter 1, Arjuna says, I want to see the enemies. Krishna says, look at the Kurus. Kurus is the common family name for Pandavas and Kauravas put together. Because they are not enemies, no. They are the same family. Look at the Kurus assembled here. You are saying enemy. Young enemy. I am only saying your whole family. If Krishna didn't say that word, maybe fight would have started. Halfway through he would have ran away and we wouldn't have got. And we wouldn't have got Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita Kadaklana Sunday morning would have been free also. Yeah, it would have been free also. Then you have to sit and study Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Having made that choice, Arjuna, fight. Can't escape. Fight. How you should fight? 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 Fight sincerely. Don't fight half-heartedly. Fight sincerely. Sincerely means whatever that takes you to do that, do it. Sincerely order, don't keep a full stop. Put a comma and say cheerfully. Cheerfully. This is Bhagavad Gita. This is the basic theme of Bhagavad Gita. Introduction. Text start panna tradition. We have to give a introduction. No, some introduction I have to say. Some story I said. Story mari ketu utrungo. Don't take all this. Serious. Story mari ketu leave it. It's called, chapter 1 is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The yoga of Arjuna's despondency. Sankhya yoga is understandable. Bhakti yoga is understandable. What is that yoga of despondency? The first chapter is entitled Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Yoga of Arjuna's despondency. You can see the movement of the clarity of Arjuna from the clarity to prattling to inaction. Despondency. You can see the shift. When he enters into that battlefield, he got into that battlefield with such a clarity. What is that clarity? He thought he knew exactly what he is going to do, and he had no doubts about that. He got into that. When Krishna said, look at the Kurus assembled here, he started from clarity, he started prattling. Prattling means talking all unconnected things. Unconnected to that extent where he tells Krishna, if you want this kingdom, Krishna, I will fight for you. Ungalkosaram pandra sir. Yeah. He's saying, if you go through that Arjuna's despondency, each and every reason that he gives, you take that, you can literally see the whole of humanity in that. You can literally see the whole of humanity in that. One of the arguments he gives is, Krishna, if you want this kingdom, I will fight for you, leave the kingdom to you, and then I will run away. I don't want anything in this kingdom. Krishna must be laughing inside, because if he wants the kingdom, why will he need Arjuna? The work of dharma takes care of itself. It doesn't need any individual. If the individual said, do this na, it's an opportunity given to test how adharmic you can be. Not to do dharma. How adharmic can be. You understand? An opportunity to serve is not, okay, to put it very simply, Krishna is not dependent on. Krishna can single-handedly fight. Krishna doesn't need Arjuna. If he wants to establish dharma, he can do it all by himself. Or even if Arjuna would have run away, Krishna would have started. Therefore, Krishna doesn't need Arjuna. But Arjuna needs for what? When an opportunity to serve is given, you are not supporting anything, because the work of dharma supports itself. That's the Upanishadic sutra. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma protects itself. You protect dharma, it will protect you. Arjuna is saying, I will fight and I will give the kingdom to you, Krishna, and then I will run away. You understand? So many arguments like this. He goes on giving. And when you read all these arguments, you feel Arjuna is so charitable, Krishna is uncharitable. You feel Arjuna is so, he is giving, he is glad. Please, he is ready to take the fight and give for Krishna, sir. Henry Thoreau Emerson writes, after reading chapter 1, they close to that book. They say, after reading chapter 1, they close to that book, because he says, my hand started shivering, because all the arguments known to humanity, Arjuna has given. All the arguments that a human being can possibly think of, Arjuna has given already. Thoreau says, I was thinking, months together I was thinking, what argument this man would have given to persuade Arjuna to fight. Despondency. Understand? For us, shivering doesn't happen, because we know the climax. We know the story first. It's like buying there are people who buy the thrillers. They'll read the last page first. Last page they'll read first. And then, because they can't, it's not worth. We know the climax first. We know everything, we know the story, we know the hindsight, we know everything. With that background, we try to understand Gita. And that's not the way to understand Gita. Understand Gita on the first day of the battlefield, not 5,000 years later. Now we walk 5,000 years. Thoreau didn't know the story of Mahabharata in the way that we know. Therefore he said, what Krishna could have said to convince. First of all, why will a man convince a person to fight? That's where so many people interpret it as it's a story of between good and bad. They can't conceive that how can a man can actually say, get up and fight. Actually Krishna has no problems. He will say, get up and fight. You understand? Thoreau says, I started. Emerson writes, when I read this explanation of Thoreau, if a thinker like Henry Thoreau is getting confused, why? I will also think. He said, I couldn't come up with one argument. And when I start reading Gita, verse after verse after verse, something stirs inside this. We can hear year after year, 45 years, again next month, year after year, nothing stirs. Why? First thing, visualize the despondency first. Visualize Arjuna's despondency. What is the despondency? Get into life with the clarity of everybody gets into life. Everybody making choices, thinking that they know exactly what they want, thinking that they know exactly what they are doing. At the end of the life they realize what? This is not what they have. That nurse in Australia wrote that book, beautiful book. 45 years she was a nurse, and she was nursing dying patients. You know, the last week of the dying patient, what is it called? What is it called? Naba? What is it called? The last week, the last 2 weeks. There is a special word for that. Don't say terminal disease. It's called palliative care. It's called, now you know. You know what it is? The dying patient. The patient knows that dying, and she was nursing those patients for 45 years. And then she wrote a book. Her experiences with that. See, first of all, if you stay with a dying person, so the whole life, the whole view of life changes completely. 45 years she lived with them, and then she writes the common regrets of all dying people. She writes the common regrets of all dying people. And the first regret, she says, for everybody, the first regret is what? They always say, I never wanted to do all that I was doing. I should have done what I wanted to do. I never got to do. I never got to do. I never got to do. First lesson Vedanta says is what? First lesson Vedanta says is find that nature and then pursue. Everybody realizes, but then that realization is very late. That is despondency. The knowledge of Gita brings the man up from that despondency to the height of liberation. You follow? It takes a person to that. A person is already despondent. The knowledge of Gita lifts him up from that despondency to the heights of liberation. Moksha. What does moksha means? Moksha means I made the choice, I am responsible, I will do it. I will not escape. I will do it cheerfully, I will do it sincerely. Now you become free. Free of what? Free of the choices and the effect of the choices. You become free of the choices and you become free from the effect of the choices. What is the effect of the choices? Agitations. Free of the choices means free of that likes and dislikes. Therefore, the chapter 1, Yoga of Arjuna's despondency. And Arjuna doesn't start despondent. Arjuna starts with a clarity. Arjuna starts with that clarity. Just as everyone starts life with that clarity. What is that clarity? I know. Not only I know what I want, I know what others also want. Not only I know what is right for me, I know what is right for others also. Yeah. acquisition is, hoarding is right for me, that's what I will teach others. If service and sacrifice is, this is what I teach. You understand? Not only I think I know what I want, I think I know what is right also. With the same clarity, I make choices for others also. And then I come back and say, with all good intentions only I did, sir. With all good intentions only I did. Intentions doesn't justify the action. It's a law. I want to save the life of my daughter. She went through the appendix surgery a few years back. More than the doctor, I am interested in her welfare. That doesn't mean I can cut open her stomach and remove. Correct? But between the doctor and me, who's more interested in her welfare? Me, no? Therefore, I should be doing it. Because the doctor will say, I tried, but sorry, what can be done? You understand that? This is called ignorance. And knowledge liberates you from this ignorance. Once ignorance goes, down the line all that is associated with ignorance also goes. The impossible thing that Krishna was trying to teach us, which every enlightened master trying to teach us, is this: to make us understand how ignorance is the disease. It's almost an impossible task that they have taken it up. To educate people to educate an ignorant man on ignorance is something. How can you do that? And thank God, how are they able to? You follow what I am saying? This is ignorance. The impossible thing is to convey to an ignorant man that he is ignorant. Just as a conditioned man doesn't know that he is conditioned. A mad man doesn't know that he is mad. And then he says, to that extent you are mad, in those areas you will not know that you are mad. In the areas of your madness, you will not know that you are mad. You will know the madness of all others except your own. Yeah, that is ignorance. You will know the madness of all others except your own. Knowledge says, forget about all other madness. Treat to physicians, heal thyself first, he says. Physicians, heal thyself. What is ignorance? The second impossible thing is that the theme of the Gita is how to convey that ignorance is the disease. Only if you are convinced ignorance is the disease, you would do anything. But then, we are not worried about the disease. We are worried about the manifestations of it and attending to the manifestations. We are worried about the manifestations of it and we are worried about attending to the manifestations. And whoever says, attend to the manifestations, you will be alright, na? You will fall for it. You will fall for it. A Gautam Buddha walking on the road, a magician walking on the road, who you will be attracted to? Vast majority. A Gautam Buddha walking and the street magician walking. Both together, who you will be attracted to? Magician. Why? Right. Magician. Why? Because he gives you a hope. What? As you are, you continue to exist. You don't have to do anything. I will do everything for you. That's why we fall for that. You follow? He says, as you are, you don't have to do anything. I will do everything for you. And I'll give you one talisman and tie it. Everything will be alright now. The whole world will run behind it. And alone Krishna comes and says, alone Ramatirtha comes and says, alone enlightened master comes and says, what? Ignorance is the disease. Don't attend to the manifestations, attend to the disease. We say, no. Where ignorance is the disease? Because you look at yourself, you feel you are knowledgeable. Where ignorance is the disease? When you look at yourself with the mirror, you say you are knowledgeable. And that knowledge is useless. That knowledge is useless. And that knowledge is the principal of the college was saying last week, sir, you should give a talk to the faculty also. I said, see, what can you talk to a professor? Because professor is one. Meera, soladinga. Professor is one who cannot listen. He cannot listen. Even before you start, he will start. And 30 professors, what can you talk? I said, okay. But then, if I say no, they will not allow me next week in Rajanal. I said yes. But what will I talk? Unbelievable. Say, you should talk to us on teamwork. How to work as a team. Working as a team for the students' welfare. To a PhD and to the post-PhD, you have to go and talk. What? Work as a team. Keeping the students' welfare in mind. I was joking with that man. Since I have a very good relationship with him, I started joking. See, college I will never send my daughter to this. I am thinking whether is it worth sending her to college? Because you go to LKG class, the same fight. You go to LKG class, it is the same fight. And 30 PhDs also having the same fight. What does it mean? I said, teamwork you should understand the difference between intelligence and intellect. I said. Teamwork will not help you. First understand the difference between intelligence and intellect. And tell all your faculties to come and attend the discourses first. If they are interested, I will come and talk to them. Talking to the students is very difficult. Talking to the professors, I will feel. I said, I will get confused because they will confuse. Just buying time to. You follow? The most difficult task is to convey to an ignorant man that he is ignorant. And the enlightened masters are so extraordinary. One man, at least they are able to. And if you find one man in your lifetime, you are lucky. If you have found one man in your generation, saw him in flesh and blood, you are lucky. Because something something that is impossible to convey. What is impossible to convey? To an ignorant man that he is ignorant. Bhajagovindam, he says, Bhajagovindam, 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 Moodamate. He is talking to the grammarian. Yeah. Maybe postdoctorate could have, double postdoctorate that man is. He is a grammarian. He is talking to him. You are a fool. He said, you are a fool. Understand? A fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. A fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. See, if only you understand that you are really ignorant, you will take guidance, no? See, if only you know that you are fully ignorant, you will have no problems in taking guidance. Why the difficulty to take guidance? Because you think you know. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, Bhajagovindam, even in the Gita he says, all masters say the same thing. What? You are a fool. A fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. But what makes him to think he knows? What makes him to think he knows? He has memorized information. He can reproduce it. He is a pandit. He is a scholar. Very intelligent man. But has no intellect. But he lacks that penetrating capacity. And Krishna, 700 verses to help us develop this penetrating capacity. Intellect is that penetrating capacity. I keep repeating again and again and again. Yeah. What is penetrating capacity means? Look at the seed, you understand the tree. That's penetrating capacity. Look at your today, you can understand your tomorrow. That's penetrating capacity. Look at your present, you can understand your future. You don't have to go to any horoscope fellow. Look at your present, you will know your. To see the invisible in the visible requires penetrating capacity. To see the invisible in the visible. It's called Jnana Chakshu, the eye of wisdom. To see the invisible in the visible. Now go back. The choices that you make, so many things are, the package is invisible. What is visible is the instant choice. Penetrating capacity is to understand the invisible in the visible. Only if we relatively understand the invisible in the visible, one day, in the absolute sense, we can understand. What? The invisible reality in the visible world. Ultimate aim is that. Don't forget that. The ultimate aim, the true purpose of studying Vedanta is to one day to get to that state. To see the invisible in the visible. You see the tree, you miss the roots. You see the tree, you miss the roots. Why? The roots are hidden. You get carried away by the flowers and the fruits. When you look at the tall building, you miss the foundation because it is hidden. Knowledge is hidden. When you look at an enlightened master, what is visible? What is invisible? I always used to think like that. I can dress like a Buddha, I can talk like a Buddha, I can walk like a Buddha, I can sit in a meditative posture like he sat, find his breakfast, lunch, dinner menu and follow the same menu also, cut a branch from that Bodhi tree and have a Bodhi garden. Nothing happens because I get carried away by the visible, missing that invisible. What is that invisible? That wisdom is invisible. That wisdom is, that visible is, the visible can be imitated easily. That visible can be imitated easily. Therefore what happens? I start imitating, assuming that, under the assumption that I have become that. And the tragedy of life is, imitations are attractive then, imitations are always more attractive than the original. Because for an imitation comes at a cheaper price. Same products are, all same. Only thing is, the label da illa. Badri. Cheap and best. Either things are cheap or they are best. Cheap and best pen Gurungo. And you know what? I have seen it. That's why I am saying. Ask him. Man will go. Cheap and best pen. He takes that 1 rupee pen which he bought 2 years back, not getting sold at all. Gives and says. And they also, ignorance imitates. Ignorance imitates. Clarity says, how much ever you imitate, you can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. Yeah. Hitler says, repeat a lie 10 times. Repeat a lie 10 times, you will start believing it as the truth, he says. Not others. You. Now this is foolishness. This is ignorance. Gita is supposed to wake us up from this ignorance. Gita is supposed to wake us up from this ignorance. What is that ignorance? An assumption of thinking that I know when I actually do not. The proof of knowing is becoming. The proof of knowing is becoming. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Meaning, the proof of Brahman is, the proof of God is not in by hearting the Gita slokas. Is in. Therefore, the proof of knowledge is, the proof of knowledge is not knowing. The proof of knowledge is becoming. The proof of knowing is becoming. Ignorance is saying one thing, doing exactly the opposite. I give a discourse of service and sacrifice to others, and I remain selfish. Give. Someone says, sir, I am ready to give. Give it to me. Yeah. So all the talk of giving to inspire you is only to say, give. And I actually think what I have grown. Ignorance imitates. And imitation is being foolish. Knowledge says what? Wisdom says, don't try to imitate. The proof of knowing is becoming. That's where he says the first word of the first verse of the first chapter starts with the word dharma. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. Dharma. The last word, the last verse of the last chapter ends with the word mama. Dhruva nitir matir mama. So dharma mama. Mama dharma. Dharma mama. Mama dharma. To expose us to ourselves is Gita. While all other knowledges teaches everything else about you, Gita teaches you to yourself. All other knowledges introduces the world to you. Vedanta introduces you to yourself. That's why it's called subjective knowledge. Objective knowledge means all other knowledges introduces the world to you. Knowing the world is not knowing. It's not knowing yourself. Knowing yourself, you know the world. The converse is true. Knowing yourself, you know the world. Conquer the mind, conquer the world. You can conquer the world, but you will still remain a slave to your mind. You conquer your mind, you become free of the world also. There you can say, get thee behind me. I will have none at thy hands. This is called dharma mama. Mama dharma, my nature. The entire Gita. Starts with the word dharma. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre he starts. The last verse ends by saying dhruva nitir matir mama. So the last word is mama. So he always says dharma mama. Reverse it becomes mama dharma. So the entire knowledge of the Gita from another perspective is to introduce you to yourself. With this I am going to conclude. The knowledge is a magnification. Knowledge is a magnifying glass. That's where it's a dangerous tool. Knowledge is a magnifying glass. It magnifies everything. It shows you in a magnified form. That magnification glass, you can use it on others or you can use it upon yourself. Knowledge is this magnifying glass. You can use the magnification glass upon others or you can use it upon yourself. Krishna says, use this glass upon yourself. Don't use this glass upon. When you use it upon others, you become a very good critic. You'll become a very good criticizer of everything. The same knowledge, use the knowledge which is the magnifying glass upon yourself. With this background, we enter into the study of Bhagavad Gita next week. வாங்க சொல்லுங்க சொல்லுங்க.
The whole thing I talked about.
Yes, சொல்லுங்க.
The next definitely period of my discussion of the topic is very tough time. One
Yes.